Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've got quite a stack of material here,
Yeah, articles, some research, notes.
all focused on one core topic,
Mhm.
how generative AI is really shaking up corporate training and development. I mean, it seems like it's touching the whole L&D process.
Absolutely. From the prep work before training even starts, through the learning experience itself, and even, looking at the results after.
Right. And our goal here, for you listening, especially if you're in L&D, is to really unpack what this stuff means practically.
Exactly. We want to pull out the key insights, the actionable takeaways from these sources, show the value AI brings, how it affects learners, engagement, and importantly, the ROI for the business.
And it's good we have a mix of sources, gives us different angles, tools, use cases. It's such a fast-moving area.
It really is.
So where should we kick things off? Maybe just follow the training process logically, start at the beginning.
Makes sense. Let's start with preparing for training, the pre-training phase, because even before you build anything, AI is already making a difference there.
Okay, how? What's the first impact AI has in getting ready?
Well, the sources really highlight how generative AI can dig into performance data.
Employee data.
Yeah, individual data, but also team data, department-wide data. It looks for patterns, and can quickly flag specific skill gaps that need attention, much faster than traditional methods.
So it's not just surveys or manager gut feelings anymore. It's finding the what and the who based on actual performance numbers.
Pretty much. It gives you a really solid data-driven foundation for your training needs analysis, a big step up from guesswork.
Okay, you know the gaps. What's next? Does AI help figure out the how?
It does. Once those gaps are clear, AI can look at even more data. Performance metrics, sure, but also maybe employee learning preferences, current skill levels, things like that. And it uses all this to help actually design the training.
Design, you mean like recommending courses?
More than that, it's about personalization. AI can help map out customized learning journeys for employees, like unique paths tailored to an individual's specific role, their gaps, how they learn best.
So moving away from that one-size-fits-all mandatory training approach.
Exactly. Towards something genuinely relevant for each person.
That sounds fantastic, but doing that kind of personalization manually for hundreds or thousands of employees seems, well, impossible.
Right, it pretty much is. And that leads straight into another major benefit the sources keep mentioning, speeding up content creation.
Ah, okay. This is where L&D folks probably lean in. Building content takes so much time.
It does. And generative AI can drastically cut down that time and the associated cost. Once you have the plan, AI helps build the actual materials much, much faster.
How much faster are we talking? And what kind of materials? Like course outlines.
Way faster. Think orders of magnitude. Yes, outlines, definitely. But also generating drafts of text-based stuff like manuals, reports, job aids, and even creating assessments, quizzes, tests, evaluation questions. One source mentioned using iSpringLearn's AI to whip up a pretty decent quiz in minutes.
Minutes. Seriously. That alone could save days of work for some teams.
No kidding. And it's not just text. It extends to multimedia, too. AI can help draft scripts for training videos, convert text into surprisingly natural-sounding speech for narration.
Oh, like text-to-speech.
Exactly, and generate subtitles, maybe even in different languages.
Okay, so you're generating outlines, text, quizzes, video scripts, voiceovers. Fast. Are there specific tools mentioned for this?
Yeah, a few pop up. ElevenLabs gets mentioned a lot for text-to-speech, sound effects, and even dubbing capabilities.
In other languages?
Synthesia is noted for creating videos with AI avatars, which you could pair with a voice from ElevenLabs, for instance. And SlidesGo was mentioned for quickly generating presentation outlines and slide content.
Wow, so instead of spending days on the basics, L&D teams can generate the core materials in minutes or maybe hours, and then focus their time elsewhere.
Precisely. They can spend more time on the strategic parts, refining the content, adding the human touch, ensuring instructional soundness, shifting from content creation grunt work to content curation and strategy.
That really changes the game for the prep phase. Makes L&D much more agile.
Definitely. It streamlines everything leading up to the actual learning.
Okay, so AI helps us get ready faster and smarter. But what about when the employee actually starts the training? How does AI transform the experience during learning?
Right. This is where that personalization and adaptation really come alive. AI makes the learning experience dynamic, not static.
How so?
It analyzes how the learner is interacting with the material in real time. Things like response times on questions, comprehension scores, how they navigate through content.
Right.
And based on that data, it dynamically adjusts the difficulty level or the pace of the content delivery while they're learning.
So it's almost like a personal tutor watching over your shoulder, figuring out if you're getting it or struggling.
Kinda, yeah. If you're breezing through, it might offer more complex problems or move faster. If you're stuck, it can slow down, maybe provide simpler explanations or point you to extra resources.
And it can tailor the type of content too, right? Based on learning styles.
Exactly. Visual learners might get more diagrams or videos, auditory learners more narration or podcasts, kinesthetic learners maybe more interactive simulations. It's constantly monitoring to keep you in that sweet spot challenge but not frustrated.
That constant tweaking must make a huge difference in retention. What about making learning more hands-on, beyond just absorbing information?
That's where AI-powered scenario-based learning is a game changer. Generative AI can create really realistic interactive simulations and role-playing exercises.
Interactive how?
Well, the key thing is they aren't pre-scripted paths. The simulation adapts and generates responses based on your choices and actions within the scenario. It creates almost endless variations.
So it's not just clicking A, B, or C. The AI is actually reacting and creating new situations on the fly.
Precisely. Think about practicing something like sales objection handling. The AI can generate unexpected but realistic customer objections based on the product or situation you define.
Okay, I can see that.
Or for healthcare, training on difficult patient conversations or working through complex medical cases that evolve based on the trainee's decisions. For leaders, practicing tough conversations with employees, crisis management simulations, team conflict scenarios.
Wow. Practicing those high-stakes skills in a safe environment where you can fail and learn without real-world consequences. That's incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. The engagement level compared to just reading about it is massive.
Yeah.
And alongside these simulations, you also have AI tutors or assistants.
Like chatbots.
Yeah, AI chatbots or virtual assistants that can provide instant help and guidance 24/7. If a learner has a question at 10 p.m., they can often get an answer without waiting for a human instructor.
So it scales that one-on-one support feeling.
Right, which is huge for big companies or global teams. And that ties into assessment, too. We mentioned AI creating quizzes.
Yeah, in minutes.
Right, but it also automates the feedback. Learners get results instantly, understand what they got wrong and why, right away.
That immediate feedback loop is so important for learning.
Definitely. It can enable dynamic testing, too, where the difficulty adjusts, or generate complex case studies for evaluation that AI helps assess quickly. And finally, just boosting engagement through the content itself, making it richer.
No.
Creating more engaging multimedia, maybe videos with AI avatars and those realistic voiceovers we talked about, gamified elements, and a really big one, accessibility.
The multilingual aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Automated translation, text-to-speech, dubbing. AI makes it feasible to offer training content in many languages. Tools like ElevenLabs are powerful here. Think about the global workforce, or even within one country like the US, where, something like 21.6% speak another language at home.
Yeah, that's a significant number.
Making training available and accessible in someone's native language, that removes a massive barrier and makes learning much more inclusive and effective.
Okay, so we've covered prep and the actual learning experience. What happens after the training? How does AI help measure if it actually worked and what to do next?
This is where AI analytics really shine. Getting deep, data-driven insights becomes much easier. AI-powered LMS platforms or specific analytics tools can generate detailed reports automatically.
On what kind of things? Just who finished the course?
Oh, much more. Engagement levels within the course, knowledge retention over time based on follow-up assessments, performance trends, even how people behaved in those simulations. AI speeds up collecting and analyzing all this data enormously.
So you get a much clearer picture than just completion rates. You see if people actually learned it and remembered it.
Exactly. And AI can keep tracking performance after the training, on the job perhaps, to see if those skills are being applied and if the initial skill gaps are truly closed.
That closes the loop. Does it look forward to, like, predicting things?
It can, yeah. The sources talk about predictive analytics. By analyzing all that learner data, AI can start to predict how effective a training program is likely to be overall.
Really?
It can identify which modules or activities had the biggest impact on performance or retention and suggest specific improvements for the next time you run the course, even before you start designing it.
So L&D can move from being reactive fixing courses after they run to being proactive and continuously optimizing based on data.
That's the idea. And ultimately, connecting all this back to business results.
The ROI question.
Right. AI analytics help you correlate learning outcomes, skill improvements, knowledge gains with actual business metrics, things like productivity boosts, sales increases, error reductions, customer satisfaction scores.
So you can finally show leadership the tangible value training brings, in language they understand, moving L&D from a cost center perception to a strategic partner.
That's the goal, demonstrating measurable return on investment.
Okay, let's pull back for a second. Thinking about the big picture, how does all this AI integration really change things for the employee, the learner, and what's the overall payoff for the organization?
Well, for the learner, it's a pretty fundamental shift in their experience, that personalization we keep talking about. It really boosts engagement. Sources mention general employee engagement being low, but AI in learning contexts has shown increases of like 15% to 30%?
Which could make even mandatory compliance training feel a bit less like a chore.
Hopefully. Plus, you get better knowledge retention because the content is tailored, it adapts, the feedback is instant. Learning becomes more accessible, 24/7 support, multiple languages. It just makes learning more effective, probably more enjoyable, and helps people develop skills faster. That's a win for the employee.
And for the business, the ROI seems pretty clear based on what we've discussed.
Absolutely. Increased productivity is a recurring theme. Those stats, like 37% or 9% increases in different AI integration scenarios. Huge cost reductions are possible, too.
How so?
Automating tasks like content creation is faster and cheaper. Scalable AI solutions often cost less than scaling up manual methods, especially globally.
And there are those stats about AI mentorship platforms, boosting retention by 30%, and improving admin efficiency by 100%, automating scheduling, reminders.
Exactly. It helps with talent management, identifying those gaps quickly, preparing people better for roles, and freeing up HR and L&D from admin tasks means they can focus on more strategic work, its efficiency and effectiveness.
It all sounds incredibly positive, almost transformative. But realistically, rolling out something like generative AI across L&D can't be simple. There must be hurdles
Yeah, for sure. The sources are clear. It's not just flicking a switch. A big one is quality control.
for the AI-generated content.
Yeah. AI is great for a first draft, but it needs human experts to review, refine, check for accuracy, ensure the tone is right, and avoid just generic output. You still need that subject matter expertise and instructional design oversight.
So AI assists, humans steer.
Precisely. Then there's the human connection piece. AI tutors are helpful, but they can't replace human empathy, facilitation, and coaching, especially for complex skills or sensitive topics. Finding that right blend is key.
Makes sense. What else?
The skills gap within L&D teams themselves. Professionals need to learn how to use these tools effectively. Things like prompt engineering, how to ask the AI the right way to get good results. That's a new skill set.
Right.
And of course, data privacy and security are huge concerns. You're potentially collecting a lot of detailed learner data, so having robust systems and ethical guidelines is absolutely critical. And addressing potential bias in AI outputs.
Okay, so given those challenges, what are the keys to making this work? How do organizations implement this successfully?
Well, first, understanding AI isn't magic. It's a tool, a powerful one, but it complements human skills. It doesn't replace them entirely. That mindset is important.
Manage expectations.
Exactly. Second, be strategic. Don't just use AI for AI's sake. Align its use with specific learning goals and business problems you're trying to solve.
Targeted application.
Third, invest in training your L&D people. They need the skills and confidence to use these tools well. And finally, maybe start small.
Pilot projects.
Yeah. Pick a specific challenge, run a pilot project using AI, measure the results, learn from it, build confidence, show some quick wins, then scale up based on what works in your context.
That seems like practical advice.
Yeah.
Looking even further ahead now, what do the sources suggest is next for AI and learning? Where might this be going?
Well, things like hyper-personalization could get even more granular, maybe even using different kinds of data inputs down the line. Immersive experiences are likely to get more sophisticated.
Like combining generative AI with VR or AR.
Exactly. Creating really dynamic, responsive virtual training worlds. AI virtual coaches might become more context-aware, maybe even more emotionally intelligent, offering more nuanced support. And fundamentally, the role of the L&D professional keeps evolving. It'll demand more skills in areas like prompt engineering, definitely data analysis, ethical judgment calls on AI use, and always keeping in that human-centered design focus.
It's really clear, listening to all this, that generative AI offers some incredibly powerful tools for L&D. It can genuinely enhance training across the board, make it faster, cheaper, way more personalized, more engaging.
And ultimately drive real, measurable value for both the employees and the bottom line.
It feels like a pivotal moment for the field.
It really does.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
As AI continues its rapid advance and shows this potential to fundamentally reshape learning and skill development, how does embracing this technology change what it really means to be an L&D leader today, someone focused on nurturing talent and driving performance in organizations? Something to think about.